conditions your body and those you love. In the context of health and performance, as kind of the context, I will invite you to stay all the way till the end, because I've got a free offering I think many of you will be interested in. When the Game Changers movie came out, I contacted the producers and the doctors and the athletes in there, and I'm going to provide a resource for you on plant-based nutrition for professional athletes, elite athletes, any kind of athletes. It's a playbook that was commissioned by the International Olympic Committee, and I'll give you information on that, where you can gain a excerpt from that document. It's a pretty impressive document. There's over 10 pages of scientific references. So if you're into that sort of thing, stay tuned. So again, if you're not familiar with us as a company, the name might be a little confusing. When I was introduced to it over 20 years ago, I saw it as a think different company. I saw it as a food innovation company. Two kinds of innovation. There's innovation that makes new things, that makes old things better. And then there's innovation that makes new things, that makes old things obsolete. Here you see some of our technology in our vertical growing tower gardens. And for the last 29 years, this company has tried to put technology at the service of plants and harness food science, harness technology, and try to help people get more plant food into their daily lives. Here you see our residential gardening systems. I call it the iPad of gardening. And to understand a little bit of the history of our company as a pioneer in health food, as an innovator bringing technology around plant food, and more recently in the last 10, 15 years, a global leader in the functional food domain. And then within that, we are best in class in some food categories that I'll bring to life here today. But the world, as I say, will know of our company because of this lane, because of plant powders. And when you get into the conversation of health and performance, it all comes down to daily habits, as you well know. Your common sense, your smarts, and just the prove it of life, right? And whether it's eat well, love well, pray well, rest well. We as a company are focused on daily eating habits and helping you execute and bridge that gap around the number one daily eating problem in the world. And that is consuming enough nutrient-dense foods every single day as a lifestyle over time, from womb to tomb, as we call it. Now, if you're interested in getting enough to just prevent disease, the CDC says you should get 5 servings of the most nutrient-dense foods on the planet, which are fruits and vegetables, and 90% of us just don't get it done every single day. If you're off the couch and you're doing stuff and you want more physiological vitality, more physiological vim and vigor, it's 7 servings a day, 9 servings a day for fitness. If you're an athlete, 12 plus servings a day minimum daily. And so we understand how fruits and vegetables can help us in terms of preventing disease, but not many people are familiar with how the food gets inside of us and brings the body to life from a performance standpoint. And at the highest level, food functionally does 3 things inside of you. Beyond the joy of eating, it builds matter, proteins and amino acids. It fuels energy, carbohydrates, glycogen, fatty acids, calories. These are macronutrients, carbs and proteins and fats. But the third pillar that food does, or the third realm, it's kind of a blind spot, both for athletes and for patients, for anyone in between. It's the micro side of food. It's what lies beneath, that deeper level biochemistry. And what it does to our body is condition our physiology. It conditions physiological function. And what do I mean by that? There are tens of thousands of molecules inside nutrient-dense plant foods. And if you think of it as an iceberg, we see 20% of that iceberg that resides above the water. That's the carbs, proteins, and fats, the macros, the fueling for performance, the building your body. But it's what lies beneath in whole food, where the majesty of micronutrition comes into play. And what it does is that biochemistry provides just-in-time inventory across all these tens of thousands of molecules to interact with our body and make it work better and condition it. There's no calories here. And it comes fiber and vitamins and minerals and enzymes and antioxidants and pre and postbiotics and phytochemicals. And in the 20th century, we learned about across this physiology spectrum to try to get more fruits and vegetables in our lives to prevent the left side of this spectrum from occurring in our body. This is what I call the physiology spectrum. These are different states of physiology, from poor to peak and everything in between. And you can kind of gauge, where do you fall on this physiology spectrum? And the food in you on a daily basis over time can help your body level up, or it can break it bad. And this is just lifestyle, right? We have a lot of pressures that come at us in the modern world, whether it's toxicity and stress and lack of sleep, poor exercise, poor eating. But when it gets down to food, that conditioning of physiological function across all of these states, it impacts it wherever you are. And every single one of these individual molecules across the tens of thousands interact and create synergy. And that's why 1 + 1 = 4 in terms of whole foods, right? And so we understood in the 20th century about vitamins and minerals, but as we all well know, there are tens of thousands of molecules inside of whole foods, and every little yellow dot that you see here moving to the right is a micro gain, is an advance, is an optimize, is a result. It's performance. It's performance in you. And so if you look at these beets, and then you look at these beet powders, the removal of water, then this matter, when I was introduced to Juice Plus 20 some years ago, I understood these plant powders were not a vitamin pill, but it was plant matter. And it had all of these molecules, this biochemistry of phytonutrients and metabolites, and there were tens of thousands of these things. And it was a bit of an abstraction, right? And the systemic daily advantages I knew would have a compounding effect. I talk about the compounding effect of food. Now, what it does inside of us is deliver and condition physiological function across all of these systems and organelles and organs and cells and tissues, right? There's a lot going on in this slide because there's a lot going on in your body across the entire spectrum, as I said, from patient to pro athlete, poor physiology to peak physiology, whoever you are. If you're already on the right side of this, of your own bell curve, let's say, the right side of the physiology spectrum, and you want to stay there, you've got to continue on a daily basis to replenish that phytonutrient cascade, right, from nutrient-dense foods. And so what we as a company have done is support the pursuit of getting it done every day by providing daily plant food support across plant powder shakes, across plant powder blended concentrates. You see here the flagship fruit powders, vegetable powder blend, berry powder blend, and then more recently, plant omegas, 100% from plants. These plant powders are being used with pro athletes who are interested in safety, cancer survivors and thrivers that are interested in clean, pure, traceable food, tested food, and then high-risk pregnancies as an example. We have a whole study on high-risk pregnancies and how these plant powders work inside in utero with babies. All that to say it's safe, and it's what we call a beyond organic. Get with the person that invited you here tonight to learn more about all the features that kind of fall underneath that category. And so our lanes, we've tried to stay in our lane, and we are the best for the world in these lanes. Fruit, vegetable, and berry powders, plant powder shakes. I call shakes the new breakfast. And then more recently, as I said, plant omegas. And if you want to understand how we harvest the food, freeze it on site, eviscerate the hemicellulose and the cellulose and juice it, eviscerate the peel and the rind and the seeds, the whole food, dry it in an oxygen-free, low-temperature environment, quality control it, test it, and then blend it into this matter, this blended matter that matters, as I say, and then encapsulate it. What does the encapsulation process do? It gives it an oxygen barrier. There are three things that degrade food: time, heat, and oxygen. We put it in a capsule, we ship it to you, and then you eat it every day. I've been consuming plant powders every single day for the last 22 years, and I understood it early on as a food first, a functional food first support tool. A food way, a functional food way versus a not food way, which is kind of the cocktail of molecules, right? Daily plant powders just made sense to me. And so functional food, if that's a new term for you, it just means food on purpose. And the American Academy of Dietetics, they have a position statement on what it means. And I'll paraphrase here. It's whole foods, fortified foods, enriched foods, enhanced foods that you take for a reason, have some sort of beneficial outcome. You're looking for a result with these foods. So to give you some example of foods and beverages that you consume, like coffee, tea, these are, you take these, you drink green tea and take coffee for a reason. Fermented foods, spices, herbs, plant powders is our lane. And as a functional food, as I said, we're the best for the world in the lane of plant powders. Here you see the most widely consumed plant powder of its kind in terms of a brand. It's our flagship across all of these fruits, all of these vegetables, all of these berries, and you see and experience them as the fruit, vegetable, and berry blend of Juice Plus. We're kind of the OG in the space. I introduce and talk to people. Are you familiar with functional food conditioning that delivers sort of deeper level physiological gains to whoever you are? It doesn't matter, right? And so from a physiological perspective, that compounding effect conditions anyone. And what I'm going to do now is sort of introduce you to the prove it part that speaks to what we call our published efficacy. These institutions, these affiliated research institutions have tested these plant powders, our brand of plant powders, and we stand in the marketplace of IDEA as the most clinically researched, peer-reviewed, and published functional food, nutritional food, health food product brand name in the world. We have over 40 published studies. If you're into this reading material, get with the person that invited you. They can provide you with all of these abstracts. But what I'm going to do now is kind of take you through a quick view of the forest, of the prove it stuff, right? I did a webinar earlier this fall with Dr. Mitra Ray. Get with the person that invited you to drill in, and she brings about 10 of those studies to life in more detail. But what I want you to understand is I want you to see the forest, and I'm going to take you through this really quick, and then we're going to wrap up. And so from the context of using these plant powders, we've seen in one particular study, it's our field survey study, our children's health study, our Healthy Starts for Families, where we actually give a family rebate and a 2-for-1 where families can get our plant powders for two for the price of one. We've put over 4 million people through there. We've collected data, and 60+% are eating more fruits and vegetables. There's an acclimation of palate that occurs, training taste. We've anesthetized and neutered our palates down to sugar, salt, and fat. And when you put more nutrient-dense matter in your body, you tend to crave this stuff. And we see this in the behavioral outcomes of kids are eating more fruits and vegetables. Adults are eating more fruits and vegetables. They're taking less OTC and prescription meds. And we've got all of that data if you want to learn more about that. And so we improve and replenish and make the microbiome perform. We condition adaptive immunity. We condition and reduce, attenuate inflammation. We help protect DNA. These are all published clinical studies. We promote genetic expression, turning on and off genes. You want the good ones to turn on and the bad ones not to stay off, and vice versa, right? We condition this stuff, and our plant powders have been shown to do this. We help and improve and condition performance around metabolic flexibility. Like, who doesn't want more circulatory, or what I call vascular capacity? This is the endothelium. It lines all the vessels in the lining of your entire vascular system. And which do you want? You want the vessel on the left that is constricted and can't dilate, or do you want the one on the right that has that capacity? Turns out our plant powders help the endothelium and allow it to vasodilate, right? That's human performance. This is a fun study if you're into it. We actually looked at elite athletes at anaerobic threshold, and what we showed is our plant powders protect proteins in the body. You can oxidize and damage lipids, fats, you can oxidize and damage carbohydrates, and you can oxidize and damage proteins. This study shows protection of proteins. So there's eating proteins, but the protection of proteins, this was a pretty provocative study. Brain performance. Who doesn't want more of this? This is human performance. And these plant powders were shown to improve all of these areas in our brain. Turns out that omega has a family, omega 3, 5, 6, 7, and 9. You can get it straight from plants. Here are the plants we get it from. And as it turns out, in terms of the omega 3 index, it's a cleaner, more environmental friendly, and more effective way to get omegas from plants. I call this the performance stack. That's a quick introduction to some of them, but here's who all of this published efficacy helps, improves, conditions, and delivers advantages to. These daily plant powders help the next generation, the greatest generation, a type 2 diabetic, a type A personality, someone you love, someone you hate. This is a universal conversation across everyone because we're more alike than we are different. Whether you're a CrossFit crazed fitness buff, you're a professional athlete, you're your grandpa, a grandma, a neighbor, a fitness buff. As I said, I have the luxury to work with a lot of professional athletes. And when professional athletes come to me, they say, help me improve my recovery. I like to call human performance. Human performance, the best example of human performance I can think of is pregnancy. That's human performance. It is better circulation for a diabetic. It's more energy all day for parents. It's helping kids perform better in school. And that compounding effect of nutrient-dense matter in the body is a thing. And what it does is condition and promote winning physiology. And it doesn't mean much in a day or even a week or maybe even a month. It compounds over time. When I got on these plant powders, I didn't feel much of anything, but I knew it was an abstraction, right? I knew stuff was going on deep inside me that I couldn't touch, taste, feel, but here's what happened. 15 plus months in, I began to realize greater recovery, a stronger adaptive response, what I call physiological durability, where I can work my body hard, I can play hard on the field, I play old man soccer, I get up the next day and I have recovered. Recovery, restoration, rejuvenation, reclamation, all of that is a human performance equation, whoever you are, right? And so, as I said, I have the luxury to introduce how plants deliver performance to elite athletes. I've had the fortune to work with Olympic champions, world champions across aerobic, anaerobic, power, finesse, and skill sports. It doesn't matter what sport because the nutrient density, that conditioning of physiological function. Here's what I like to say. I talk about human performance nutrition is actually a higher form of sports nutrition because it fuels for physiological function first and sports performance second. And it works for anyone. And in the game of gains, athletes are always looking out and adapt if they find a better way. So as I mentioned to you, when the Game Changers movie came out, I reached out to the producers and the doctors and the athletes, and I got in conversation with them. And I said, "Oh my gosh, we have to do a Game Changers conference and empower practitioners, empower athletes in the game of life with all of this knowledge." And look, knowledge in the end is the booby prize. It's actually the execution and the doing every day. And that's where these plant powders kick in. They help you execute. Nutrition is only as good as your execution. Long story short is in February of 2023, we're launching a human performance conference called Project Adapt. It'll be in Florida. But here's the cool thing. The International Olympic Committee have been inundated by athletes all over the world to provide, to ask the International Olympic Committee for guidance on plant-based eating as athletes gunning for Olympic glory, if you will. Because of the Game Changers movie, it brought an awareness to elite athletes. And when I saw the Game Changers movie, I like, finally someone sort of delivered the visual medium and the video to show that this delivers physiological performance. And it's whoever you are beyond just athletes. So the International Olympic Committee reached out to those people and said, hey, will you produce a playbook for us for professional athletes that we can take and give to athletes all over the world, because they're asking for guidance on one, the science, why, how, some tactics and tips. And so this past summer, about 180-page playbook was produced, went to the International Olympic Committee, and is being released early in 2023. I have an advanced copy. There's 10 pages of scientific references on it. And if you do want to copy an excerpt from this, the foreword was written by an Olympian and a doctor by the name of Dr. Scott Stoll. He is the CEO of the Plantrition Project. They educate physicians and practitioners for the last decade on the science of plants as practitioners. But this is the cover of the book. And if you want to get an excerpt, you can go to this website. It's Project Adapt. It was created by a couple nonprofits, the Plantrition Project and Switch for Good, and was sent to the International Olympic Committee. It's now in 2023 going to go out to the NFL, the NBA, the MLB, FIFA, the MLS, and all the way down to the high school soccer coach, the high school volleyball coach, and on. But if you're off the couch and you're doing stuff and you want to understand some of the science behind helping your body work and work better, it's a great read, even if you're not an athlete, because as I just told you, this just shows you how your body works deep under the hood. So you can go there, register, and we're doing an introductory webinar on November 17th. But you can get this excerpt will be delivered to you in a digital format. So on that note, wherever you fall on the physiology spectrum, know that we are the best for the world in our lane for the last 20 plus years, delivering daily plant food support in the form of shakes and blended powdered concentrates and omegas. I like to think of us as a health food technology. We are supplemental food. We're not a replacement. We are there to bridge that gap. And I invite you to get with the person that invited you here tonight, adventure with them, ask them more questions, lean in, and we have a lot more resources for you if you'd like to go deeper, as I like to say. God bless, take care, everyone. We'll see you on the field of play. Have a great evening.